What's up, everybody? Back and running with the Play the Fight Song podcast inside a newsworthy, exploding newsroom, and everything is going on right now in the world of college football. We've had a national champion crowd. We have Nick Saban moves have broken in the last 2 hours. We have transfer portal buzz up on who's going where. We have decommitments coming out of all this stuff. Things are on fire. We're pumped to talk about it. I tell you what, I don't know if I've been excited to jump on an episode this quick. This is like first time we have news break the day of or like really close to our recording time. Usually we're always early, I feel like, because we usually record on Tuesdays. Usually news will come out Wednesday, Thursday, and then it's too late and we haven't even touched on it. And we'll have to just use the Twitter to go off of that. But welcome in. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll do some hosting tonight. Again, Parks is feeling a little under the weather, scratchy voice. Kid hasn't left his apartment, I believe, in 3 days, he said.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, sometimes he made it, right? You got to remember, one thing to know about Parks is he is not sick, freaks him out. If you're sick around him, if someone's sick around him, if he's sick, freaks him out. So he doesn't do well in those situations.
There's no crime in being sick. The crime is getting other people sick. So you're not going to find me out of the house.
I don't think you'll find a lot of people that'll argue with you in that situation. Reese, going down to you and Kyle McCord you trust, but how you feeling with like the last couple of days of college football? Like the world has kind of been set ablaze. New champion, not in the SEC, which you called, and now the king of college football.
I did call that. Good job, Reese. Yeah. I mean, the Nick Saban thing caught me completely off guard. I really didn't think he was going to be gone. I mean, I thought you had 2 or 3 more years in him. I think he would want to end on a loss in a Rose Bowl game nonetheless. But then you're getting new guys jumping in the portal. You're getting your coaches changes. And yeah, the game, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, I wasn't a fan of the way it went, but it's the way it goes. But yeah, just it's kind of sad the football season is over. It's weird looking back to like the week 1 stuff and how far away that was, but it's the end of it and ready for it.
Jake, I know you get locked and loaded into college basketball usually around this time, or the NBA. I don't know if you're super locked into it or if you're just ready for baseball season like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Not college basketball. I think I've made the decision that I'm just not going to do it this year. I usually kind of wait till like conference play starts, and I have no interest. And I could go on a tangent, but I feel like we're a college football podcast, so I'm not going to start it.
It's fair.
But other than that, man, I'm good.
Iowa State beat the number 2 team in the country last night, and you're going to open with no college basketball?
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch it because I had work things going on. But
poor guy's got a job.
Wasn't surprised that I wasn't surprised by the result.
Imagine being the one guy that doesn't make money off this. What a loser, right?
Yeah. What did you take? You laid a 3.5 last night, Jordan?
No, dude. I just sent him a text. I said Houston by 15 tonight. Just give it in a little shit. This is like noon. He texts me an hour after game's over. He goes, "Oh yeah, did you lay that number? Did you lay that number?"
No, that's not what I said.
Yes.
I said, Jordan, I know that college football season just ended, but can we please not have your dumbass college basketball takes? I would appreciate that.
It wasn't even a take. It was just to get under your skin, and it worked. Because what would you have said had they won by 15?
That sounds like
you probably would have been like, "This team isn't even good." Oh, shocker! They lost to Houston. What are they supposed to do?
If they had lost, I would not have said anything.
You were a little Charmin.
That sounds like a Caspi comment right there.
You could say that about Iowa basketball in some situations, but hey, we have a lot to get to. We want to start off with the game, the national title that happened on Monday night, which is absurd, by the way. This is still happening on Monday nights, but it is important that we touch on this. I know a lot of people have talked about it on every sports show ever, but we wanted to kind of have a different take at it. We wanted to look at it from our perspective and what really happened, what we really felt about the game afterwards, how we're feeling about each program, maybe how we're feeling about players and what college football ramifications came from that. So Reese, starting with you, I know you were saying you weren't too happy with the outcome. What going into that game, did you see things happening a little bit different, or were you just hoping it would be?
I was hoping it would be. I thought the spread was too much. I thought Michigan was going to win by a score. I didn't see them winning by 21. But then you're just looking at Washington. It's like they are right now. It's like what Michigan was when they first started getting to the playoff. Like they were just a team that got there, played well, but they just weren't the physically dominant team. I mean, they beat Texas, but Texas was just vulnerable with the big plays, which was what their entire offense was built on. But then when it came to actually a smash mouth football game, it showed that they just weren't the most dominant team or most physical team. So it just kind of shows where Washington is at right now. And then you got to go replace Penix which is a huge guy that you have to replace. And also, Michigan just made him uncomfortable all day. I think he had the one big play of over like 15 yards, I want to say, for a pass. The other one, but there was like a penalty called it, so it didn't really count. Yeah. Missed Odunze for a touchdown. Just it wasn't their game. Michigan came in with the right game plan, and everything was working for them. There was never a second they weren't in control of that game. Like Michigan or Washington coming out of the second half and having an immediate turnover just kind of showed what that second half was going to be like. And it was tough. It was just an uphill battle from the whole time. But yeah, Michigan, I got to eat my own words. They were the real deal this year, even though they did cheat, sons of bitches. But they were pretty.
Are we gonna let that go? Are we gonna let it go?
I don't know.
We're never gonna let it go. The Houston Astros, we're never letting that go.
I hate the Astros.
We're never letting it go.
Two things. We got to let go of the Florida State talk. I'm tired of it.
Fair.
And the Michigan things. I'm tired of it because we suspended the coach 6 times this year. And they found this out like halfway through the year. So they were kind of exposed or confiscated at that point. And they didn't slow down a bit. Like they ran through pretty much everybody. Could have done it to Alabama for forbidding a couple of mistakes. And that team was really good. And I don't think the sign stealing had anything to do with their 14-0 season.
Parks, going to you real quick. I think you were in the same boat as me as far as Jake's confidence pool went. We're in a situation where we did really well. We're sitting 2-3 in this thing with more points available than the guy that was up top, but we had to take Washington in order to get on the other side and win that thing. But I think you kind of expected the other end. You were hoping for the money on one side, but you were kind of expecting the other. How did you feel as the game played out? And then afterwards, like, what did you really take away? Because it's one game, but it is the most important one of the year.
Yeah, first I want to lead off with, unfortunately, we have people that are bigger media personalities than we'll probably ever be. And somebody needs to remind Brandon Walker that he does not write shitty articles for SEC Today, because him bitching about the product on the field and how that wasn't a good football game, it is insane. Like, dude, do you know what happened last year when Georgia played in that game? Do you think that was a better product for people to get into college football than what they watched this year? I mean, it wasn't a blowout. It ended up being a 3-score game at the end, but that game was close. People thought they were going to blow it open 24-3, and then they cut it 17-10. Now it's a ball game at half. So I thoroughly enjoyed the game, but it went about how I thought it was going to. I thought Michigan did what they needed to do on the ground. And a big part that I can't believe no one said yet is how uncomfortable did Penix look? I thought this was the worst game that we've seen from Washington's offensive line in a while, and that's a credit to Michigan's front. And Jake, you did say it last week, Jake. It's okay to take credit for that. But he didn't look comfortable. We didn't get the same Michael Penix, unfortunately. He got banged up a little bit towards the end, fought through it, but it was just that Michigan team was too much, man. Too deep in every position, as I've said 1,000 times. So it went about as what I thought it was going to be, but I appreciated the game in general. I thought it was a good, fun, close game to watch.
I agree 100%. We have got to stop this whole thing. And it happens in every sport, not just college football, whether it's the Super Bowl, college football, national title, basketball, NBA, MLB, whatever, name your sport. If the one game that you watch, it's a game 7 or it's a game 6 or national title, it's not like down to the wire, by your teeth, scraping by last second monster play. People are like, that wasn't even a good game. How many games during the year actually get that though? Like, that's what happens. Like, that's how the sport plays out. And just because it's not a made for TV product. It's not scripted. It's authentic. It's sports. It's not all gonna be perfect. So like that, the bitching about it is just insane. Like you said, like, what's the point? Like last year it's been a blowout. It was a blowout a couple years ago. Like, it's always been this way in college football ever since the college football playoff started for the most part.
I think if you wanted out of both of those teams, if you had to pick which team you would rather have down 20 points in the national championship, I don't know about you guys. I think it's Washington. For me, being a person of common sense, and I'm sure you guys are too, we've watched this team all year.
We try.
I thought Washington had a chance really up until 8 minutes left, 7 minutes. I mean, even like that last pick by Penix down that got back down for Michigan to their 6. That was the nail in the coffin, but that's a good enough offense for me where I never thought
100%.
that was. But you're right. You do get the casuals that haven't watched Washington all year, and they're like, oh, this team's just getting their ass kicked. They're not going to figure it out. This game's over.
Yep.
Fine. You were right, but I like to be optimistic, and I like to have a little bit of sense in what I'm watching. So
yeah, and for me on this one, like you guys have made obviously all the really good points that I kind of had written down for the most part of it. One stat I do think that maybe people don't realize that is something in college football that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. Is like Penix was sacked once, but that doesn't mean the defensive line was ineffective in the pass rush, right? Like how many times do you see a situation in college football where you just can't get to a guy because he's elusive? I mean, Caleb Williams gets away from a lot of sacks and has for a long time. He's also sacked a lot, but that's how bad the offensive line was. Penix is different. Penix got rid of the football in most cases and had options in those situations. Michigan decided they can get pressure with 4 and didn't have to bring the 5th and 6th to open up hot, check downs for Penix. And when that happened, and it's pressure from the edge, it's pressure from interior. Texas was a lot more interior with Sweat and those pieces. And so he was able to move left and right and make plays. But when you collapse a pocket from the inside and have him contained, it makes it a lot tougher. And then he takes a couple big hits, and you could tell the kid was battling. Wasn't himself. He looked very, looked uncomfortable in the pocket. And it was throws that maybe he should make under duress that he's not going to get hit on. He was bracing for impact before the ball got out of his hand. Because I don't know if he broke ribs. I don't know if it was just like pain in general, what it was, but you could see him grimacing and you could see him falling away from throws. Like he was falling away from pressure off his back foot. He wasn't getting under the front foot, really pushing through anything. And so it made a difference. But on the flip side, I think we do have to give a little respect to Washington on the defensive side of the football. They said, if you don't give up 2 big plays early in that first quarter, we're talking different football game because they figured it out. They go, those drives, Michigan ate them up. 100%, but even before the big plays, right? Like they were moving the football at their own will. But when you get into the second half or in the second quarter and you kind of see the numbers dwindle for Michigan, it's because they're like, McCarthy, come beat us. And he couldn't. He made the one play late to Loveland, I believe, and it was barely caught. If that ball's tipped, it's picked. It's going the other way, and you're in a whole different game. If it's a little overthrown, it's picked. Like, they needed one big play, and they got a big play out of a receiver or a tight end in that case. They're come beat us. And we said this about McCarthy in the semifinal. We said it about the national title. Just don't turn it over. You don't have to break the world. How about 10 of 18 for 140? That's all they needed. So Washington bowed up, but it was just too late. Michigan was stout the whole night. And if you guys look back at that, I haven't watched the game back yet. I kind of thought what we were getting out of Michigan felt very it kind of felt like an NFL game in the senses that like you got an elite defense against a team who just is struggling to move the football. And then on the flip side, they were just trying not to lose. Like it's a lower scoring game. They were just playing battle rock fight a little bit. Just don't lose it. Right. It felt like an NFL playoff game in that sense. I don't know if you guys felt similar towards the end of that one.
I mean, that not to be a kind of a jackass about it, but that was at one point a top 5 coach in the NFL that won a national championship on Monday. So I think he forced his style. It took a few years and people wanted him fired after that 2-4 COVID season.
Calling for his head.
But yeah, man, like you said, he won in a different way. And I think that's why we love college football. And it's kind of stuff like that. And we won't get into the Harbaugh stuff right now, but it's another reason why I want him to stick around. To see somebody win in that style, we haven't really seen probably in the 14 playoff era that really relied on its run game and 1 or 2 plays from your quarterback. It was kind of, I don't want to see it every year because it is a little monotonous and I don't love Big Ten football, but to see a team just powerhouse and impose themselves to a national championship I thought it was different. I thought it was unique, and that's what made this season so great.
You get Parks, you have a thought on Washington and like going forward, if you're on that team and you've gotten to that stage, you go undefeated until that point, you don't show up the way you wanted to, things don't go very well pretty much from the jump, right? You had your one piece to cut it to 7, you were within 7 for a long time. How are you approaching that program right now, like from the outside?
Yeah, I think it changed just today. I mean, who knows what's going to happen after the Saban news, which we'll get into. But
Yeah.
if there's names jump in those portals, I mean, I think 25 different way too early preseason top
Mhm.
25s, and I don't think I saw a single one with Washington in the top 10. They are losing a lot, so they have to take advantage of situations like now, the college football we currently live in, go refill those positions. And who knows? You're going into an absolutely 18-team loaded Big Ten conference where you're going to find familiar foes that were on the
Mhm.
better end of the teams you faced, along with even better teams that you just got beat by. So I think Washington and Michigan match up. What is it, week 3 next year?
I can't
So
remember
we'll have our
when,
answer.
but they also come to Kinnick Stadium, Washington does. And so, like, I'm excited to go to that one. That'll be one I definitely grab tickets to because that's a new brand coming into Kinnick. That's an established program with guys with Iowa ties on the coaching staff. That's another thing. Reese, you look at it, Washington from the outside perspective, like Parks is saying, like you have to kind of rebuild a little bit. But how do you feel foundationally? Like, how worried are you about DeBoer leaving, or how worried are you about reloading and resetting this program? Or do you think it's going to maybe, if it goes back to maybe 8, 9 wins next year, is it panic button time? It can't be,
I
right?
think as long as DeBoer is there, I think you're fine. I'm not worried about it. If he leaves, then yeah, maybe it's a little worrisome. But I think you can fill in when your OC there might just step in unless he gets
Mhm.
picked apart. Because I think he was getting recruited by Saban last year, so unless he gets recruited
Yep.
away somewhere else, but I would be just fine with him. Yeah, if you fall to 8 or 4, yeah. But again, that's a normal Washington season kind of for them. I don't think it'd be hit the panic button mode. It's also you're trying to replace Penix and Adunze and those guys that have been massive. And some guys on the defensive side of the ball as well too. So yeah, you got to replace guys. If they're not to the 14-1 that they were this year, yeah, this was a very, very good team. But to replicate this team back-to-back years when you're going to lose your quarterback versus like a Michigan team who literally brought back everybody and they're studs in the backfield, that's a different story. But I wouldn't be too worried if I was a Washington fan, especially if DeBoer is going to stick around. I mean, the coach of the year, that's going to carry some weight, and that guy's going to really get some recruits in there as well too. So.
Am I crazy in saying, Reese? I think you made a great point there. 8-4, 8-4, 9-3. We are very close with how loaded these new conferences are. To maybe that's a 12 spot. That's an
Mhm.
11 spot.
Yeah.
You might have a shot at 8-4. So I think we're
Yeah.
going to look at 8-4, 9-3 a whole lot differently over these next few years.
Yeah.
Jake,
I think
your
that's a
biggest
good point.
takeaways.
Well, I just think that's a good point. And I think I don't personally know the Washington fan base, but I really hope they don't change their expectation to now that they think they're this
Mhm.
top 5 brand in college football, because they're not. They don't recruit on that level. I think DeBoer's done a decent job in the transfer portal. Obviously, he's got a decent replacement in Will Rogers, who has a ton of snaps under his belt. He's gotten some guys from like San Diego State, Arizona State, and I think even
Yeah.
Montana State on the offensive defensive line. I don't know what the receiver situation is. I don't know who can come back and who's really going to the pros on the top of my head. I
Polk
think
for sure is.
okay, and then obviously Adunze is a top 5 pick. But I just think you can't expect, if they're expecting 10 wins next year, and if that's a failure to them, and especially in the new league, I think they're just out of their minds. I have no
Mhm.
idea. I'm not on Washington Twitter. I have no
But
idea.
it is,
But
I mean, but every fan base is dealt with. I mean, not every fan base. I said that differently. There's a lot of fan bases that have won to a point where they like they expect way more than they need to now. Like you're not jumping a weight class, right? Like you're not like this whole shebang. Like you're still a really good program and you are who you are. So like live in that identity and do not try to be something you're not. Like I think that hurts more programs than it helps.
I also think too, if you're looking at, because last time Washington was in the college football playoff, they went and played Alabama and got
Yep.
boat raced. This time you went to a playoff, you won a playoff game, got to the championship game, and yeah, the score was what it was, but you're at least competitive for 3.5 out of the 4 quarters. So your brand, I think what you're at now is a lot better than what it was in the past.
Basically what Reese is saying is that Washington gets into the playoff next year. They're winning at 3rd time's a charm.
Could be.
Right. That's
Who
the next
knows?
stage.
Who knows?
Somebody write this down, clip it. Reese has already said Washington's winning a national title next year. I don't know how it's out there.
Will
I'd bet
Rogers
it now.
If Will Rogers wins a national championship, I know I've said this before. We've made this bet. You guys can shave my head.
It's back.
It would be.
Come on, Will.
We're going to need a little more than that. I mean, can we paint it after we shave it?
Sure. Yeah, you can paint a big
And
purple W on it.
Will Rogers tattoo.
No, we're gonna do something worse than that. We're gonna do like a Nebraska N and a Hawkeye logo on it, both sides,
Yeah.
like a helmet.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Perfect.
House
Any
divided
other-
tattoo, Iowa, Nebraska.
Any last takeaways from this game? Anything that we didn't touch on? Anything that happened in the game that we wanted to? Oh, I have one more thing, but if nobody else has anything,
Go ahead.
Jordan.
all right, this is a discussion point, open floor. But I have a take. We've got to stop this staying on the field to watch celebration shit. We
I
have
said
to.
that
It's a
the other
fake.
night.
Yeah, it's fake.
It's
not
terrible.
real. What's the
It's
point? What
terrible.
are you getting out of it? Everybody's motivated differently, but what the hell are we doing? This isn't you. This is selfish. I don't know how selfish the kids are that are doing this, but like, what percentage of you is doing it to get a picture taken of you in this situation? What percentage of you really needs to see this to be motivated for the next season?
Yeah,
I
what's
think the
loss?
only
Not
one,
enough.
the only one that I saw that was like egregiously bad was Ty Thompson in the
Yeah,
Pac-12
that-
title. Like,
that
come
was
on,
bad.
dude.
Guy wasn't even playing.
Yeah, he didn't step on the field one time.
But the McCarthy one last year, I think they had Polk this year or somebody else this year for Washington. There's been a ton. Like they're all over the place. It's
The
like
kid from
this new
Cincinnati.
thing.
Dude,
Yeah.
somebody pulled that one up from the other day. That was hilarious. I don't know. He goes, I don't know who this kid is, but you watch out for number 6. I think Justin
Oh.
Harris was his name. He is going to be a difference maker. You remember the name. He's standing like
Because you're
dude,
watching yourself get beat like on the field. Like you're watching confetti come down. These people are celebrating one of the best days of their life, winning a title and whatever level. And it's just, what does that really do
Well-
for you? It's not that
well,
cool. It's not cool at
three
all,
of the-
actually.
Well, the three of the 4 of us, just because we played baseball, but 3 of the 4 is we've seen people doggy pile in front of us. Doesn't that kind of piss you off a little bit?
Why would I want to
you're
watch
walking-
it?
as you're
Dude.
I'm not
walking
saying
off
I'm
the
not saying
field.
I don't want to watch it, but it happened in front of you.
Our freshman
Yes.
year, when a team did that on our field, I
Yeah,
will say
there's
that
not-
all the
I had it happen to
upperclassmen
me.
were very frustrated. No, it didn't frustrate me. I threw 2 innings that year. I think you have to
Still piss
play.
you off. Look, dude,
to
it
actually-
happened to me twice in high
I'm
school.
not.
You
You
guys
cannot
are
go into high school stuff. You
arguing.
cannot
You're
go into high school
arguing the
stuff.
wrong point. You're arguing the wrong point.
The point's
The
that
point
it's
is-
stupid.
The point is you didn't sit there and stand there and watch the doggy pile. I'm assuming you walked off the field. You went to the dugout. You went
Yeah.
to the corner or
Yeah.
whatever.
Dog piles
Like,
are a
that's what I'm
different breed.
saying.
They
I don't have to
happen
sit
too
there and
fast
watch
to not
it.
watch it.
Dog piles are
But-
the best. Doggy piles are the best celebration in sports. I don't care what anybody says.
That's a fact, but back to this, it's a bad look. I mean, I think the tweet that was circled around this year where it was like, bro, it wasn't even close, like go to the bar, is a great way to put it.
Well, you know who started this? Is Stephon Diggs, and he hasn't even been close to the AFC title game since then. He's, I mean, what are we doing? We
I
want to
don't know,
follow
man.
that?
It doesn't. That's why I think it happened. Is they saw the pictures and they're like, dude, what if if I lose, couldn't be that bad if I just get a picture taken. And it's
I
not
am-
right after the game. This is 30 minutes, 45 minutes after. Go in the locker room, talk to your boys, listen to your coach speak. Let's get back on the other side of this loss where you were you're happy with that you've gotten there and you're still hurting, but you're not watching other people. You're with the freaking.
I am 100% convinced Ty Thompson told somebody to take that photo. Like there was an iPhone photo. It looked like it was from the stands. That's the
It
only
might
one
have
that I
been.
thought was bad. But yeah,
I think the whole trend's just stupid. But let's jump into some recent news and transfers. We'll go into commitments, some new entries into the portal, coaching changes, and then immediately into our Nick Saban discussion. So commitments out of the portal. Jade Mavia, UNLV to Georgia to USC. Parks, you had the scoop on this, and then you didn't, and then you kind of did already. So what's going on?
yeah, I take the time to go get a photo, edit it, make it look a little nicer, add a logo, make the logo look somewhat cool, add our logo. And this dude had me running around Google.
It's
Insane.
flipping
I
in
mean,
the portal is insane.
I
Get
put
out,
the
Jay.
USC one out there. And then 10 minutes after I put that out there, he commits to Georgia. Oh, shit. Delete that one so we don't look dumb. Put the Georgia one out there. Day later, back to USC.
You should have left it up there, quote tweeted, and be like, I'm just going to retweet this one and leave
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it'll come back. I could probably do that for a few people.
Malachi Nelson, quarterback out of USC, committed to Boise State. Taylor Green has been replaced from the Broncos. Is this the most talented quarterback Boise State's had in a number of years, Schaefer?
It has to be. It has to be like he would be the school's highest rated recruit. I mean, I don't even have it in front of me. I just know that on the top of my head because there's no
Mhm.
way Boise has gone and picked up a guy like that straight out of high school. And that's more of the benefit of the transfer portal. It's why we love it so much, is for instances like this. And um, he wasn't really, from what I've listened to, he wasn't ready for USC. He wasn't ready to play, and that's why they were going after Will Howard and Jaden Mavia. Like, they're going after other names. So interested to see if he's an upgrade from Taylor Green. I would imagine he's a better thrower because that doesn't take much. So I think he's in a good spot. I'm
Got a
excited to
point.
watch
Got a
him.
point. Yeah, little KJ in Arkansas is going to not really change that scheme at all. I promise you. The biggest one, I think, out of commitments here, Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, the running back, All-American, SEC Freshman of the Year, I believe, led the SEC in rushing. Commits to Ohio State. Reese?
I was to say a low key one people may not have heard about, but the leader in passing yards in the FCS has committed to Miami. Reese Poffenbarger.
Yeah,
People know
Poffenbarger,
that
you
one
Albany
yet.
kid. Yep.
Yep.
He talented kid. A lot of FCS quarterbacks are making the jump to Division 1A, I guess they call it, or the FBS. I don't know how many of them are going to absolutely work out. I mean, that's a tough place to go win right now, I think, for Poffenbarger. I think he's got to be like the bee's knees. But back to Judkins, where do we see this? Like, you're coming off an Ohio State team that had Travion Williams and had all these other pieces and good running backs through the years. Where does he fit in this whole thing?
He fits perfectly, Jake. You already mentioned that Will Howard, to be effective, has to have a running game along with him. So I'll tee this one to you. But what a dick move, or what a great move, I guess, if you're a huge Ohio State fan. For 5 minutes after the Michigan wins the national title, you're at your lowest of lows.
I was going to say that he
within
had
the
to have
6
done
points.
that. Yeah.
I think he did it purposefully, but
I think he did too.
Putting the fandom back up. So good
Yeah.
move by him. Great move for the
I'm
fans,
coming.
but dick
I'm
move at
coming
looking
to
back
6.
on it. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. I mean, if there's one team you probably want to run for in the Big Ten, it's either the the older brother in Michigan or Ohio State. Hopefully, we don't have any Ohio State fans on. Just pissed them off a little bit, but yeah, I think it is a good spot. Like I said before, I think he's going to help out. He's going to help out Will Howard. I don't know, but Ryan Day likes to use a couple of running backs. Like he used Chip Traynham, Travion Henderson. I'm
Myron
forgetting.
Williams.
I feel like this. Yes, thank you. I was forgetting the other guy on the top of my head. So he likes to use multiple backs. I'm assuming he got the bag. I'm sure he got
those two. They also.
I'm sure he got compensated. But I'm
this
wondering,
probably
like,
helped an announcement today. They had an offensive guard announce that he would return to Ohio State. So I assume this helps the
and
situation.
didn't Seth McLaughlin commit to Ohio State?
Yes.
From Alabama. Okay, so
I saw that.
they're trying to give him a push. My thing is, I'm wondering, what did Ryan Day sell him on? Was it just money, or was it like, hey man, like you're gonna be our one back, you're gonna be 60% of carries?
What if he doesn't want all the carries?
I would highly doubt that.
But
a college.
What if he doesn't? The amount of carries he had at Ole Miss, he's putting a lot of miles on those legs. What if he wants to be a 60-40 guy? What if he wants to take a little off and get the money, right? Split the workload and still have the ability to have a breakout year. I mean, is it that crazy? Because you're dealing with a position in running back that isn't that valued in the NFL at this point in time. Like, this is a guy, a lot of backs that have broken out in the NFL, Jonathan Taylor being an exception, and probably Javonte Williams from North Carolina, plays for Denver, are guys that weren't the workload. Like, they were sharing it, right? Like, they were going through things. So, like, that's how it feels in a lot of situations.
And Jonathan Taylor's a walking piece of glass. So take that for what it is.
That's why the position is what it is. Not because of Jonathan Taylor, but because people feel like the schemes really make the running back, and the running back doesn't make the scheme, at least in this era of NFL football, right?
I would like to see him turn him more into a pass catcher, because you didn't get that with Henderson or Traynham. So does Ryan Day kind of implement that into his offense and just kind of make him a fifth receiving option? I would like to see. I think he can. I think he's good out of the backfield. I think he's quick enough to get in space.
I think they'd enjoy that. I think they'd really like have an option, especially if you're reloading a receiver room like they always do. And I'm saying reloading this because you're not reworking it. It's not being reorganized and everything. They have talent there already. So that's really important to look at. And that'll be a team, obviously, I think will be in a lot of top fives is top 5 fair to say? And like way too early top 5s, top
Yeah.
25s early in July or August.
They always
So-
are. You can always
Yep.
throw them in there for me.
Top 10 is the safest. Top 5 is probably pretty right.
Yep, I agree with you. Agree with you both. Entry into the portal that I've seen: Clifton McDowell, Montana's quarterback, just got off an FCS national title loss to South Dakota State. He, after 1 year in Missoula with the Grizz, has hit the transfer portal. He's from Central Arkansas originally, not the school, not the area of Central Arkansas, but he is more of a runner. He's not a great passer. He kind of developed more and more as the year went on, but he is kind of like, I feel like we've used this a lot in this situation, but he's KJ Light. I think he is Taylor Green. I think that would be my comp in this situation. Is he's not the most gifted passer, but he runs really well. Put yourself in a good situation where he can run maybe that spread option style offense, that RPO style offense. So he has hit the portal from Montana, and Montana will go looking for a quarterback and hopefully to make another national title. Congrats to the Grizz. Congrats to the Jacks on their FCS national title back to back. I believe for the Jacks, the people of South Dakota are going and saying, hey, good for these states that don't have FBS programs being the cream of the crop in the FCS. I think that way overlooked. I think that's so
Good for you,
awesome,
Brookings.
for the sport. Coaching changes. I'll just rattle through these quickly. Obviously, if you have anything to say, hit the buzzer, raise your hand, do your thing. Kevin Steele Kevin Steele retires as Bama's defensive coordinator. Yeah, I'm going through this quick, and I immediately had the wrong. It would have been weird if they hired him, and then what happened later happened.
Retired,
Zach Lujan hired as offensive coordinator at Northwestern. This one related to that South Dakota State team. He was the offensive coordinator for them. Johnny Nason hired as co-defensive coordinator at Texas. He's defensive coordinator at Arizona this past year. Been very successful. Good for Texas going and getting a guy there. Jeff Collins hires the defensive coordinator at North Carolina. North Carolina is still working to find a defensive solution for their problems they continue to have if they want to have a chance to win in the ACC. It feels like
I buy Gene Chizik.
And Bo Davis. You buy it? Oh, bye-bye. I thought you said you were buying it.
I said, I said bye-bye Gene Chizik.
Yeah.
The most
that
fluke
did not
national
go
championship
great
coach
for
of all
him in
time.
Chapel Hill.
Nope.
Damn right.
You're probably just tickling Jake's fancy saying that. 'Cause Iowa State guy that left for Auburn. Hate that guy. He could have done it in Ames. He could have done it in Ames.
He's
He
actually
could have done it without him, dude.
I mean, could anybody? That guy was one of the best college football players ever walked the earth.
True.
Bo Davis hired as defensive line coach at LSU, hired him away from Texas. Bo Davis, obviously most recognizable and infamous for his screaming speech at Texas in Sark's first year there. I believe this is after a loss to LSU at a neutral site game is when that happened on the bus.
Are you talking? No, that was Iowa State.
Well, I can't remember who they played to in that situation.
The Texas, you're talking about Texas, the guy, the coordinator or the defensive line coach yelling on the bus.
This is Bo Davis. Yes.
That was the Iowa State game when they got their ass kicked. Sark's
in
first
Ames?
year. Yeah.
Okay.
They got
so that's
dismantled.
Yeah, that's what they're most known for. He's yelling at people to get in the portal and get off the team. Can't deal with it anymore. Hired away from Texas by LSU. LSU making some hires, not messing around. Brian Kelly is ready to make a change on the defensive side, get a little bit better and compete for a national title. And with that, it kind of seems like the door's open for it, right? Parks, you have something?
No, I just want to say I think the best fit out of all the names you just said was I think we got to talk more a little bit about Lujan. I thought Lujan going to Northwestern was like a really, really good move by them. I think Braun's made every correct move you can make as an interim head coach and now a new head coach. I mean, they already won 8 games last year. Now they get a very run-heavy, Big Ten fitting offensive coordinator, and I think he'll be super successful there. So I love that hire.
Yeah, I think that scheme is very Northwestern.
And I'd also add Blake Baker, the Missouri defensive coordinator, is the new coordinator at LSU to go along with Davis.
Insane LSU hirings right now. Like they are really working to make that program better and better and better and get back onto the national stage. Not that they weren't this year, but playoff good, top 4 seed good, win an SEC title is good. All of that leading into the big news that we had drop in the last 2 or 3 hours here. Nick Saban has officially retired as coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. The greatest coach of all time. I think it's pretty easy to say that. His stat line is absolutely incredible. Just reading some of these stats. 5-time SEC Coach of the Year, in 28 seasons, 292 total wins, 11 SEC championships, an 804 winning percentage, 19 bowl wins, a MAC championship, 49 players selected in the first round of the NFL draft, and 7 national titles at 2 different schools. I mean, anybody want to try and build a resume? Yeah.
Come
That
on,
sounds like me in NCAA football on
I was
freshman
gonna
mode.
say.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Retire in NCAA 14 and 2026.
Yeah.
7 national titles, 15-time coach of the year. Like
With
percentage
Toledo
over
being a part
900.
of that resume. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. But were your initial feelings from this? Like, we don't need to go into crazy breakdowns. How did you initially feel when you heard the news? Shoot, go ahead.
It sucks, right? I mean,
I
is
agree.
it like
Yeah,
a part of
it
your
does.
childhood dying?
I think it sucks too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
like a lot of
stinks,
and
dude.
that's different for programs like us. We're not playing them every year.
Yeah.
And we're not a massive rival of them. But like, it kind of sucks. I love listening to the guy talk about the press. I loved him talking about his program. I love listening to him talk about football in general, life in general, and then watching him really live that life on the field is incredible. I thought it was, yeah, it kind of sucks. I agree.
and a little bit blindsiding, no? I mean, I figured we'd get him one more
I was
year.
gonna say
the redemption
We didn't hear
tour,
rumors about.
like,
Was there rumors about it at all during the year? I didn't hear any.
okay.
Not rumors, speculations before the year.
I didn't
not
hear
during.
anything. That's why I was more blindsided. Like, I had
Do
no
we
idea.
really? Did we really want him to do the Coach K tour?
No.
'Cause I did.
Not that. No, no, I don't
No,
think. He
I
would
don't think
do
that's
that,
what
but I'm
he's
saying. Like, there was
saying.
no speculate. Like, there was no rumors about like maybe he would do. He's not like Coach K was like, hey, I'm gonna be done next year. Like Saban, I don't think would do that. Like, I think he would just like you would hear more about it like throughout the year. He wouldn't want that shit.
I was saying it more as redemption, as we just lost the game before the national title.
Yeah.
After winning the SEC when we weren't supposed to, like, watch us finish this thing. Okay, now I'm done, but not give you any hints even next year about it.
You could argue, like somebody said, I don't remember where I heard it. He's like, I can't believe he didn't go out on top. I mean, who's to argue he didn't? I think this year. It could have been
be
one
his
of his
best
best
coaching
coaching job he's ever
Yeah.
done. Like with the talent that Alabama lacked
they-
to bounce
What they
back
looked
after
like
week
against
2.
USF.
Yeah, and
the-
this is back to like the recalibration of like expectation within a fan base. This is a fan base that wanted to. I have a quote here from Nick Saban that I had from like my favorite Nick Saban moments. He said in a presser, I think last year or a year before, when I came here, everybody was happy to win a game. Now nobody's happy to win a game. Like that's he's got a point. Like if you didn't win by enough, Alabama.
That's so
fans,
hard.
if
Do you
they
know how
lost
good
the
you have to
game-
be for that
Buddy
people get mad when you
Stevens.
win?
That's exactly. That's how good he was. It's like the guy won so much and so at such a high level that his own fans hated when he won because it didn't
Fair
look the
point.
way they wanted it to. It wasn't up to the Alabama standard. Newsflash to Alabama, you're a really good program, blue blood, obviously within college football. But before Saban got there, you weren't much.
They lost to UL Monroe his first year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could you imagine?
Like this is you can't act like that from that fan base that like they created Saban. Saban created Alabama. Didn't create them, but brought them back to life. Like rose them from the dead in this situation, right? Like if you're looking at Saban Parks and you're talking to somebody 15 years down the road that maybe is just now growing up and they're pretty young, they're not going to remember his tenure at Alabama. What are you talking about with Saban? Like, how do you explain him?
It was a shock if they didn't make the playoff for the national title. If his team did not make the playoff for national title, it was a down year. It's not they didn't win the conference. Like that was almost a given at one point at the run of their dynasty. And that's all you need to say. Because once people can wrap their head around, it's shocking. Like a genuine shock if they didn't make it. Like their over under win total never got under 10 in the last 5 years. Come on. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's full classes because you got guys only playing 3 years there. They make up half of the NFL. How many NFL first round picks have they had? How many starters in the NFL played at the University of Alabama? Unbelievable.
It's insane.
This was a thought that came into my head. Is this the biggest news in college football probably since either the 12-team playoff being announced or NIL being legalized?
Since
or
NIL.
is there another? But is it like, is this news
No,
that
because
big?
this changed college football. His rise of Alabama to this standard changed college football. It changed the SEC. Right. Like listening to the Cover 3 podcast they jumped on this morning on an emergency pod, and Danny Cannell goes, was the SEC yelling SEC before Nick Saban was Alabama? No. That program, this is, and I am not comparing these two. Please, I am prefacing this. I am not comparing these two. Where the Big Ten West has held the Big Ten West back by just playing ugly football and not getting better and adapting to the times, the SEC has done the opposite. It's keeping up with the Joneses. You saw what Alabama started to do with Saban. The rest of the SEC jumped in, and look how much it benefited from that, right? LSU, not that these weren't good programs again before, but LSU got better and better. Texas A&M got better and better. Like, you go down the list. All these programs, Kentucky, right? Like, all these programs have gotten better and better and better in the Saban era because they had to keep up with them, right? So, whereas the Big Ten West has held itself back in situations playing like each other, Nick Saban brought the SEC up. I don't know if you feel similar in that case.
I got a good one. 10 years down the road.
Yep.
Little Parks says, Dad, who's Nick Saban? What was Nick Saban? Son, he was the aspiring standard for literally every other program in the country. That's what we just lost.
Mm-hmm.
So sad day for the sport. Sad day for our generation.
What's more shocking, that we have to explain who Nick Saban is, or that Parks has a son?
What?
In 10 years?
True.
Yeah, hell,
No insult in my swimmers when we're talking about the GOAT.
I would say
his boys are going to perform.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we can say there will never be another one. I think with the parity in college football now, and like this day and age with NIL and how
You're not
fast
grabbing
teams,
7.
it maybe like, I guess I don't know how long Kirby Smart's gonna be coaching for, but maybe he can grab 2 or 3 more before he retires in 20 years. But like, yeah, like you said, he ran a decade. It's like 12 years.
He ran college football since 2009.
Yeah.
Like, this has been Alabama's college football, literally to this year. Like, it is Alabama's college football. It has been.
When you listen to the guy talk to, like, I was just gonna say, when you listen to the guy talk to, like, he just sounds like a dude that you want to play for. Like, when he talks about, I think I had a quote earlier in the year when he talked about when NFL teams are calling him like, "Hey, how was this guy? You know, what was he like this year?" And like, freshmen would always talk to him like they want to transfer out because they weren't playing. But he would tell the freshmen, like, you know what, the NFL guys who call me, like, they don't ask, how did you play as a freshman? Like, what kind of guy did you grow into? What kind did you develop into? And like, that's the kind of dude that would recruit me in a heartbeat. Like, if I was ever gifted like that, like the dude that has a genuine care and like builds up his players. Cause I think I saw a stat too, where like not one player that ever finished out with 4 years of that program didn't end up playing like in a national championship or like in the playoff. Like, everybody who would have been in one of those classes at one point had a chance to play for a national championship. Like, that's crazy.
This is the college football equivalent of when Tiger Woods finally says no more events. This is the college football equivalent to that. It's the greatest of all time, putting it down.
And I would say too, just maybe we could put a bow on this, is like, when did this thought process come into fruition? I think, was it last year, kind of after the season when they didn't make the college football playoff, and maybe he took a look around the landscape and he's just like, how the hell do I have the number 1 quarterback in the draft? I have one of the best defenders in the last 10 years as a prospect, and we can't make the playoff. Do you think I think he didn't just decide after the USF game, fuck, I can't coach Milroe. I can't do this. This is over. No, I think he legitimately, last year with me and you, JP, talked about how talented that team was. And for them not to even get to the playoff, I think it really sat him back. And he's like, I just don't know how much I can be running this race and trying to keep up with this anymore, with how much talent I have. And it's still not good enough. That's kind of where I think, do I know Nick Saban? Absolutely not. But that's where I kind of feel cool. Like, yeah, that's where I kind of feel like,
never say never.
I would say, JP, you asked greatest memories though. My favorite quote is definitely the one. I had to Google it so I didn't blow it, but and they ran through our ass like shit through a tin horn.
I had that one written down.
That's
That was
That's
after a G5 almost lost. They didn't lose, I don't think, that one. I think they were close to losing to a G5, and they ran through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man, and we could not stop them.
yeah.
Like, so good. I have another one on here that just memories and pieces that I kind of thought was funny. Just the rat poison stuff that in the last couple of years that has come to fruition. He goes, "You guys just poison, just put out all this poison, rat poison," and then they go through and after they're being hyped up by the media, and then on the flip side, they're not picked to win the SEC title against Georgia a couple years ago, and he goes, "The rat poison he gave us today, that was yummy. That was good." Like, and then he fed his players with the same stuff. It was just so good. Did anybody have? Obviously, we're not speculating. We don't have any insight into any of this, but like replacement, who you calling?
Doesn't matter. It's a downgrade.
Okay, yes.
Mike
yes.
Elko, if Mike
Let me-
Elko
let
wasn't
me-
already hired, I feel like he would have been a guy.
Let me.
I thought about that too, Reese.
Mike Vrabel.
Thought Vrabel came to mind.
Ooh,
Here's what I thought. We already know that the shoes are going to be too big and the expectation is just going to be too high. It does not matter if they even grabbed Kirby Smart, for God's sakes. I still think
I was going to say that.
I still think the expectation is just too high. So I think they also can go and get whoever they want. Before listening to anything, I on my way home today, I was like, I paused and I was like, I really thought about it. And 3 names that really came to mind. I went first to fired NFL coaches. Vrabel's never done it in college football, but man, he seems like a tough ass dude who could really sell recruits and to thrive at Alabama. He would be like 3rd on my list. First for me was Dan Lanning. Like,
Yeah,
and Kiffin
I
was a
agree.
good one. I think Kiffin was a good one. But
I had
like
Kiffin. I liked Kiffin and Lanning. I think pretty close to the top.
Dan Lanning, I think is the clear favorite. Not favorite, like I'm a source and that's who they should go. Like my personal favorite.
If you were throwing
who you-
odds on it, that's who you think it would be. Is that what you're saying,
Probably.
or you just say that's who
No,
you would
like
put your
if
money
I
on?
were making the decision, if
Yeah.
I'm the athletic director, I'm going after Dan Lanning. That's my number one pick.
How much money can Oregon throw at him to keep him? I mean, this is Oregon though. We have
I think
unlimited
they-
money.
Yeah, that's you're battling unlimited money on both sides. I think it's really like how much does he really love Oregon and Eugene and like the family aspect of things, and also them being in the Big Ten helps a lot now. Now, if they were in the Pac-12 still in that situation, I think it could be a completely different conversation. But I think Oregon's got the things to back it up. They have the money. They can recruit on a level like Alabama, I think. And now they're in a league that's probably just as big as the SEC. So Alabama would have to work for him if they really did want him. But God, I couldn't think, like he's a young guy. He prides himself on defense. I think he can coach the hell out of anybody.
Here's the weird part though. Here's buyouts for potential Alabama head coaching candidates. This is from Pete Thamel at Pete Thamel on X. Dan Lanning, $20 million. Kalen DeBoer, $12 million. Dabo Swinney, $7.5 million. James Franklin, $6 million. Mike Norvell, $4 million. So you'd have to pay these schools out of them.
For a second.
I do like Norvell. I don't think he's the worst option, but I want to say this. I just think I wouldn't give Dabo a call. Wouldn't even touch it.
I don't think I would either. Why would you want to when
so
they've
over
made their
him.
hay and it's such a destination? Now you don't even want to take kids out of the portal, or you don't want to like live in the new world.
They're the only top 25 team without a transfer portal recruit, and it's January 10th. It's unexcusable. It's so ignorant. I'm really starting to hate the guy for how arrogant he is. I think it's ridiculous.
Adapter guy.
Anything like replacement wise, Saban moment.
JP I think JP froze a little bit there.
Did I really? You still see me?
Barely.
Yep.
No,
Barely.
Yep.
I still heard you.
So
right.
Cam, anybody that you came to mind while JP gets his connection back?
Yeah, I don't think we're far off. We just talked about how much Washington has to replace. How about maybe a head coach?
It's not a terrible option.
Yeah, Caleb DeBoer, is that a bad option for Alabama? No, absolutely not. And then I think the craziest, most outlandish name that came to my mind, and it's very far-fetched because they had a very down year or let down team, but Lincoln Riley's got to be a name that's floating around somewhere in some rumorville. That name is floating around.
I don't know.
I think he'll always float. I think he'll always
Yeah.
float in rumors.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, when you left the situation you were in for what you went to,
I
yeah,
honestly think
I just think that would be the craziest play. But that's the most far fetched name that I think you might see.
I don't
There's
think
some
it would be
OC for a job.
I don't think
Brian.
it would be a bad hire. I genuinely think Alabama would treat him like scum. Like they're so far above him, and they think he's
Mhm.
soft. And I really think they would just spit him out if that was an option. But I mean, I think Lincoln Riley's a hell of a coach.
How fun would Alabama and Oklahoma, Alabama next year? Venables, Dabo,
Oh,
the staff that went to the national title 3 times together.
I'd love to see Venables get a shot at Dabo, but
I
I
love
hope
Brent
it's not
Venables.
like that. Yeah,
What,
Venables, I think in the next couple of years he'll become more of a hot name, but Oklahoma is going to become even more of a big job with its move to the SEC.
Mhm.
Here's the biggest thought that came to my mind for a team that would really like. I don't think Alabama even can get, and that's crazy to say. What's Alabama's argument against Texas right now to try and grab Sarkisian? Like, what can they sell that Texas doesn't have?
I think if you're Sark, do you really want to fill those shoes?
That's not what I'm saying. What does Alabama argue
saying
that
how
they
is-
are better
yeah.
than Texas if they want to grab Sarkisian?
I don't think
don't think so.
anything.
100%. They just beat them. I
Yep.
think they're on a better trajectory scale. They have much better athletes, way better skill players. They're
Mhm.
recruiting pretty much better than them. I mean, you already saw that 5-star receiver Williams decommitted an hour
Yep.
ago from Alabama. I think they're more physical on the defensive line. Like the money's nothing to Texas. I still think like remove a bunch of history from Nick Saban. Like Texas is just as big of a brand as Alabama is right now.
Absolutely. A bigger brand. Sorry. I believe they're a bigger brand
There you go.
in all sports. I think it's a bigger brand. Last thing before we jump into our best and worst from bowl season here. I think when you look at this, we need to pay attention to the portal and what the turnover from Alabama becomes. Like how much of that, and I think this hire has a lot to do with it. If the players really enjoy the hire, if they're bought into it, or if they're ready to find a new home and find a new coach, because that is obviously a huge part of the original reason people transferred in the college football world is coaching changes. So something to pay attention to. Last segment here before we get out of here, our best and worst from bowl season. We'll go wrap it around the horn here. You'll give me your best. You think you thought was the best thing from bowl season. Worst could be anything, any part of any of it. Parks, we're going to start with you because you're on the top here with me.
Yeah, you want to go best first and then worst?
Yeah, go give me your
Or-
best and then worst. So then
Okay, so
you'll give me
my
both
best-
and then I'll go the next.
yeah, I have to give a credit to all the marketing teams out there. My best from bowl season is just the mascots. I thought the plethora of marketing we got through bowl season, which blew it up on social media, which helps the sport, especially when bowl games are being questioned like they are. What a blessing those marketing teams are. I thought
Absolutely.
Pop-Tarts did a great job. I thought Scooters did a great job. Cheez-Its always knocks it out of the park. But then you guys got a few random sprinkles in there. Like the Orange Bowl mascot is great. It's always good. But we just got to show appreciation for the stuff behind the scenes sometimes, and those teams deserve it because, like, having a live mascot on the field that you can eat, come on, man, that's what we're talking about. That's
We
college
had a
football.
Pop-Tart come to life this year, gentlemen. When are we ever going to get that?
Literally.
again, huh?
I just wish it was
Yeah.
a brown sugar one, but
Come to
whatever.
life.
They dropped it down, shot it out the bottom. Kansas State eats it. That's
Dreams
college
do
football.
come
right
true. He had to sign,
That's
he had to sign
exactly right.
everything.
there. That's exactly right. So shout out to the marketing team. I thought that was the best part. My favorite part of bowl season this year around. Worst part, Syracuse. I had Syracuse. That's all I got to say.
Come on, man.
They're
I think that's just. I think
Dude.
that's the worst. Like that's like the worst of
The
bowl
worst
games.
attempt
Like,
at play. You
that's
should
the
just
Boys
say you're not
didn't
gonna
want to play. They weren't motivated.
Nobody
all right?
got
Jesus.
anything out of that. Like
that is the example. I mean, obviously, Florida State will probably be discussed here, but Syracuse was the example of like this is why people don't watch bowl games. That
Yes.
right there. What
Yep.
they threw out there was a disgrace to football and bowl games in general. It was just atrocious.
poor
100%.
Fran
That's all
Brown
I
had to
say.
watch that.
2024, flip the page, New Year, boys. Here we go.
It's either
Jake-
they got to like change it to where, hey, Kyle McCord, I know you don't play for this team all year, but you can play in this game if you want. Like you can learn the playbook
Suit
or
up.
practice with them. Because like him just sitting on the sideline watching his new team just get piss pounded is abysmal to watch. So take that off. Syracuse, worst part of bowl season.
Jake, you're up. Best and worst.
Yeah, we're gonna throw Parks so we don't repeat. We're gonna put the Pop-Tarts into your mascot one, right? I'm just gonna assume because that was probably
I was gonna say
the
that
best.
too. Damn it.
Okay,
I think everybody liked the branding and
Okay.
advertising around bowl
Okay.
game.
I'm just making
I had
sure
that
so
as well.
nobody goes and says Pop-Tarts and we're just repeating the same thing. Good. Honestly, for me, just thinking about us and now that we're in the off season and we're rolling on topics and we're going to be talking about teams here throughout the next few months. One thing I really loved with bowl games the last few years is the backup quarterbacks or the quarterbacks of the future that get these preseason games. I think it's more of a preseason game than it is an exhibition game. When people are having this conversation, you got Nico at Tennessee, Jackson Arnold, we saw at Oklahoma, even though he didn't play well, it was nice to kind of see what he brings. Nussmeier at LSU, like the list goes on. And I just think that, I thought that was really fun to watch. It's a little tidbit. That's really what gets me to pay attention to these bowl games. They don't see it as, oh, Jaden Daniels isn't playing. I'm like, no, I want to watch Nussmeier and I want to see what this team is when they still put some talent around him. So that's my best of the bowl games. I thought the backup quarterbacks were really fun to watch, or the up and coming quarterbacks, you would say. Worst. I mean, it's kind of going hand in hand with Parks and Syracuse. I mean, obviously going just on a bigger scale, Florida State and Georgia. The casuals don't talk about Syracuse because they didn't watch the game. They didn't pay attention to it, but there was a lot of talks about Florida State and how we can prevent that going in. And it just really gave a bad light to our sport. So that sucked to see, because I think it could have been obviously a little more competitive had some faces been in that football game, but just kind of the bad light that came from that. I thought it was an outlier. We might get one of those a year, but I just don't think you're going to get that many opt-outs from a team like that going forward in bowl games, because of, I would imagine in a 12-team playoff, there's not going to be there will be teams disappointed they didn't get in, but there are not going to be teams that felt like they got snubbed like Florida State, because you run the table or you go 11-1, you're in. So
I agree. I mean, that's a big part of everything that we had to deal with within bowl season. Reese, to you, your best and your worst.
So what are the odds I had both of my best things taken back to back like that? But I'll come up with some on the
Seems
fly.
pretty high. Seems pretty high.
I would say,
Reese.
I mean, what?
I was going to say, unless you have something, I was going to say, give us the best game. What you thought the best game was.
I came up with something. I came up with something. It's you're seeing kind of the older brands taking over. Like you had Arizona beating Oklahoma, you had Missouri beating Ohio State. It's like you're seeing kind of those brands that have been Ole Miss beating Penn State. So like the brands that have been around but haven't been as well known the past couple of years, winning these games at the end of the year, kind of becoming a little more well known. Those programs taking off on the right path. Coach is doing very well for them. Like Arizona's a team that was our team of the year, like surprising. Ole Miss landing all these guys. So you're getting teams on better trajectories for like this coming years. So beating those teams, Missouri, a team that none of us really talked about at the beginning of the year, but like now they're beating Ohio State, a team that I had picked to win the national championship at the beginning of the year. So like you're getting teams that are becoming well more established than what they have been in the past. So I think that's kind of something to go off.
Absolutely.
But then worst, yeah, I mean, it's kind of going off what those guys are saying too, but I'm sorry, JP, but that Cheez-It Bowl was just not it, man. Like, it was just it. Like, Nico was, I thought you
were gonna save the worst for JP to say that. That's got to be JP's worst, is just them throwing that on the field.
Yeah,
it's not
my
worst.
That was
like, what the shit's the random throw at me? Like, why are we just taking shots all of a sudden?
If there was all the bowl games I watched,
tell me there's nothing worse. You're telling me there's nothing worse that happened.
Hill.
Here's my question.
Look,
brother,
like
you didn't even have to cheer for
that guy was bad.
Here's my question.
Congrats, Reese. You're fucking groundbreaking.
Why was that game on New Year's Day? Like,
I don't know.
Why wasn't the Peach Bowl? Like, why wasn't the Cotton Bowl? Why did we put that fucking game on New Year's Day?
I don't know. I don't make the schedule,
That
man.
game
So-
I had to
back-to-back
watch
years
it.
was bad. Last year was LSU.
I think
Purdue.
Reese's idea of that was just because of the eyes. Like everybody's sitting on their couch watching college
That's fair.
football on New Year's
Fuck,
Day.
no, they
That's
weren't. They were getting their chores done and getting all their errands run before they had to host people for the games that night. Come on, man. You weren't watching that. They might have been. I hope not.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're
either
lying
way.
to yourself if you really think
Either
that.
way,
I'll jump into my best here. I did have the advertising from all the bowl games. I think that's important. Parks touched on that very well. I'm gonna go daytime games. The ability to put some of these lower programs, these G5s, these programs that don't get as many eyes in the middle of a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Friday, in standalone games, and give them people watching them and becoming more knowledgeable on these programs. I think that's awesome. That's the best part of bowl season, are these programs getting to be on national television to the public eye that doesn't watch college football all the time or doesn't, understand how it's laid out. I think that's super important, especially if kids that are younger, kids coming into high school, they're learning more and more about the program. I mean, I think that's awesome stuff for them. You raised your hand, Schaefer.
No, go ahead. Just
Oh.
throw it to me once you're done.
Okay.
honorable
Worst
mention.
for me. I had two I think I want to add into this, and I didn't want to be basic and say opt-outs. Poor host cities. I think there's a lot of cities here that just don't really buy into being a bowl host, and then they're just kind of like, well, whatever. Like they'll have their couple events for the players, but it's not a great place for the fans to go. It's kind of boring. It's expensive. And then skeleton staffs. Hate them. Done with it. I'm tired of it. These kids deserve a lot better than your fucking coach leaving. You not having a guy hired ready in time. So their running backs coach, who's not even the offensive coordinator, has to step up because the OC and head coach already left for their new job. And these guys have to implement a game plan to go through this whole thing just to be told they're fired in a couple days. I hate the skeleton staffs. I think it's
Or
an
they're just
absolute
leaving. They're
kick.
leaving to take another job and they just don't give a shit.
Exactly. I hate it. I hate the skeleton staffs. That's the worst part of bowl season.
I have two honorable mentions for the worst. Not to go on a negative note here, but JP,
Yeah, my
the host city one kind of churned something in my head that I don't know what you guys thought. The attendance for every single game this year outside of the playoff obviously was just poor.
Yeah. Can I
Fiesta
add
Bowl?
to that?
Did you?
What if
Yeah, go ahead.
What if we put a bowl game in just weird spots? Kansas City. I know it's cold, but if it's a Midwestern
you're
team,
gonna
they'll
get-
go down there. Omaha, Des Moines, Minneapolis, Chicago. There's all these places where the Midwestern people will go. I would go down to Kansas City to watch Iowa play in a bowl game. Parks, you'd go down there for sure. You'd go to Omaha to watch.
I'd go to watch
that'd
Ohio
be
playing a
fun.
bowl game. I don't give a shit.
That's what I'm saying. I know it's cold and it's probably outside, but I think it'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah, I would. Well, if they were going to do that, they would have to make it for local teams. You can't throw an SEC team in Kansas City. Nobody's going to watch that in the middle of January.
It could be anybody. It could be
I get what-
Northwestern versus Wake Forest or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing two names out there. But
I don't know about any other podcast that has 4 different guys that have driven. At least 2 of us drove 26 hours to go down to the state of Florida to watch their college team playing a national championship. And then the 4 of us also drove down a year later, 13 hours in a car to go down to Louisiana to watch them playing the championship game as well. You guys can suck it up and drive up a little bit north. Come on.
yeah,
fellas.
and that was the
bad do
Grambling
you like your
in
team?
Ruston, Louisiana. So let's chill out. I think they'll go to Kansas City. But I hear
Football
what you're
guys.
saying, Jake, because it is colder. I get that 100%.
My second worst honorable mention: poor showing from G5s this year.
It
From
was.
the cream of the crop G5s, Liberty, UNLV,
Troy.
James Madison, Troy, just to
SMU.
name- SMU. Thank you. Those are our top.
SMU.
Those guys were all in our. Those would have been in our college football G5 playoff.
I think every
And-
single one of them was previewed for us beginning of the year outside
Look-
of Liberty, because I don't think
looked
Liberty's
terrible.
very good still. But
Looked absolutely
yeah,
terrible.
rough.
Oh, I'll go one more honorable
Yep.
mention. Best, I think that little brawl from Eastern Michigan, South Alabama was.
That was so
it's good
bad,
for-
dude. What a
it's
piece
good
of
for the
shit.
brand.
That was
It's
unreal.
good for the brand.
What do you at a punching a guy with a helmet?
What a
As the
sad-
guy's singing to his family.
His back.
The guy's
With
singing
the-
the
with
fight
his
song in
back
the alma
moved.
mater. He gets sucker punched with a helmet.
It's good content though. They made the media.
Parks, you got some?
Yeah. This is my pitch to bowl games. More
Mhm.
bowl games in baseball stadiums. They're awesome. We need more of them.
Field sucks. Surface blows.
I'm kind of.
It couldn't be
I
any
don't
worse than
know.
Pasadena. They can't even get a snap off of that bitch.
Did you watch one in Wrigley this year when Iowa played?
That wasn't
It
a
was
bowl
awful.
game though. I'm
It was
saying
at a
like
baseball
10-7.
field.
Chase Field. Chase
Banger.
Field, that was awesome. Find inside ones
Find inside one. Fair.
or
Okay,
retractable.
Jake, what do you
roofs.
got?
Well, I was just saying
Tropicana?
before we can put a pin on bowl games before my last question.
If
for
this is
everybody.
in depth, we got to save it because we have some weeks to cover.
No,
think
it's not.
about that.
It's
All right.
not in depth.
All right,
It's not
fair,
at all.
fair.
We got to
Go
talk
ahead,
about
Jacob,
it.
fire
since
away.
This is more probably for you, Parks.
All
Oh,
right.
Shafe?
Don't
Game
end
ended-
this episode on this shit. Don't do it.
No,
Don't
no,
know
no,
what
no.
he's-
The game ends on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
No EA Sports announcement at all. I mean, come on. I am
Dude,
serious.
I knew
have-
that nothing
we
was
have
going to
to
happen.
stop. We have to stop with these Twitter people saying this is going to be in the game and they're doing this with the virtual, like in the rituals, and they're going to announce a commercial and they're set to announce a set date. No, where are you getting your sources? Because EA has said like none of these things.
And that's
At
the
all.
problem. I think people are trying to force their hand. The
Yeah,
last thing we
there's-
saw was 2 years ago. We got a Brutus the Buckeye picture of like the generations of him and how it's going to look in the game. That's it. They went radio silent. We got to stay on them. I knew that there was not going to be an announcement. I knew
Are
right
we
as JP sent in that tweet, but I had to fuel into the trending topic.
I'm just gonna say, if you want news on the football game, obviously we're not gonna get any of that news because we're not in the college football media. We're not in the video game media. We don't have EA ties. If you want information on this, and he's been spot on the entire time. Matt Brown on X is at Matt Brown EP. He does like some college football stuff, but it's mostly a lot of it's around this video game and what news you're getting and when you're getting it and what's actually going to be in it. So pay attention to that, not just some account looking for clicks, hoping to make sure you retweet them so they can get followers because they said EA Sports is going to release the game on what date.
Genuinely, I don't think I would be surprised if the game comes out in July. Like I have Parks, when you get it, I have to physically go to your house
See
and
it.
watch you play the game because I'm not going to go and buy a PS5 when it comes out right away. Like I'm going to give it probably 6 months until people start playing it and I hear more about it before I do anything.
Well,
So I have
but
to
you're
like
gonna
go
get
to
FOMO.
your
Oh my God.
You're going to
I
get
have to-
FOMO, Jake, because some kid who barely played NCAA 14 is going to buy it. And he's going to tell you all
It'll
about
be
his
there.
dynasty and how he's the best, that he's won 6 national titles at Toledo because he's playing on, what do they call the easiest mode? Everybody help me out here. Freshman. Playing on freshman. And
They're
he's
not
running the
gonna
triple
sell-
option, and he's lighting you up, and you're not going to have anything to say because you're not playing the game, Schaefer. This guy's a
They're
better
not gonna
NCAA
sell-
player than you, and that's a real slight.
the game. First of all, I don't play online. I just play dynasties, and they're not going to
Soft.
sell out. The game will always be there. They're not going to sell out the game. It'll
He's
be
getting
there
FOMO.
5 months after it
Parks.
releases.
He's going to get FOMO.
He is going to.
It's just
You
going to
gotta
be
realize,
us at a
dude,
bar.
kids aren't like us now. Like back when we were kids,
Yeah,
would
we got
get
to teach these
smoked by
kids a
older
lesson. We got to
people.
jump
Your
online and just
cousin would-
pound them.
Your cousin would just piss pound you, your older cousin,
Yeah.
if you played each other. Kids now, like Fortnite, for example, everybody's
Yeah.
played it. Those 12-year-olds, dude, they're
They
pretty
kick
good.
our ass on that.
That's what they're gonna happen. That's what
This is
gonna
our time
happen.
to shine,
Parks,
baby.
You're
And
gonna
they're
be
not
still
getting ahead of me.
Parks, you're
Yeah.
the one who plays Madden. You're gonna just be getting shellacked.
What are you talking
If it-
about?
what
It's
if it
probably
plays
gonna be
like
somewhat
Madden?
similar. Yeah.
That's what I'm
it's-
saying. Madden's super hard. They're gonna kill all these Madden geeks. Are gonna just smoke
Madden
you
sucks.
guys.
That game
I'm one
sucks.
of them. Yeah, I've been ready to go.
I'm just saying,
ready to roll. I'm
as
practicing we
as
speak.
this generation who went through NCAA football all the way through, it is our time to shine, to put these kids
Mhm.
in their place. We run this game. I'm just saying.
They've
Jay
And
better
if
buy
never
some
there's
seen
extra
one
the
kid,
controllers
double
when he
wing.
buys
They
it.
have never seen the double wing. It's
Yeah,
not
that's what
in
I'm saying.
any Maddens.
we're
Good
gonna
luck,
be at a
kid.
bar one night and we're gonna be discussing, me and Parks and Reese. We're like, dude, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and this is how my dynasty's going. Some kid's gonna be like, overhear it, and he's gonna be so happy to tell Jake about his Fresno State dynasty and how well he's doing and how well he's recruited. He got a 5-star, and Jake's not gonna have the game, and he can't show him up because he doesn't have the game.
Facts. Put
the
this out there
console's
right
more
now.
the problem. I just don't want to.
Yeah,
The-
it's expensive. I agree.
Shafe, make sure you
that's
buy
not
the
an
insurance
issue.
when you buy the controllers because I know some are gonna get tossed when you're playing, bud.
That video is
that
incredible.
is a great point. I have not had rage in like 2 years. I haven't played video games in just light years, unless like you guys are around. like I don't play by myself, so I haven't broken anything in so long. And honestly, it's
We
probably
might have
good
to
for
tweet
me.
that video out. We might have to tweet that video out as an
Time out!
anticipation for the
Time
new
out!
NCAA game.
Pause.
I talked about the controller throw when he didn't know
Oh.
I was recording him.
Yeah, no,
JP's
that one.
gotta-
We got to
JP
both,
has
get
a
both of
title
them
it.
out there.
Title it.
JP's got a
Victor doesn't play with himself. Title of the video.
Oh shoot! All right,
Pause.
great discussions. Thank you guys for listening. As we get into the off season, if you want debate topics, things covered, you have questions, please reach out to us on X, Instagram, TikTok, all of our platforms. Feel free to interact with all of that. Thank you for everything once again. It's been an incredible college football season. Can't wait to jump into the off season and then into the 2024 season with the 12-team playoff. It's going to be an absolute blast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Schaefer, how about you take us away?
GBR.
One last time.
Play it.